Welcome back to the next episode of Arrakis Central. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. So, Dune Part 2 has released. The reviews have been very good. But one area which was not really talked about in Dune Part 2 and barely shown in Dune Part 1 is the Spacing Guild, and particularly the Spacing Guild Navigators. The Spacing Guild got its beginnings 10,000 years before the events of the first Dune book. In the Brian Herbert prequel Balerian Jihad books, the character of Norma Senva would become the first Guild space navigator. Norma Senva would find out that spice could be used in gas form to mutate a human into becoming a space navigator. Norma Senva experimented on herself first by placing herself in a chamber full of spice gas. This mutated her body and her mind, and enabled her to see deep space calculations in her own mind and her own visions, and she was able to plot safe courses in order to fold space almost 100% safely. She was successful at this, but this was not the case with every person that was put into the spice gas. In the Balerian Jihad books and the Spacing Guild books, the Spacing Guild does not exist quite yet, and is in the control of a private company named Venport Holdings. Right after the events of the Balerian Jihad books and into the Sisterhood of Dune book, the space folding technology with spice was a proprietary and privately owned technology. Many years later, the Venport Holdings would create a society on Tupoli, the planet that Venport Holdings was located. This society would eventually turn into the Guild, and they would go on to negotiate with the Rhinos, which were the leading imperial family at the time. Approximately 10 years before the establishment of the official Spacing Guild, Emperor Sadir I would initiate a financial synod. During this financial synod, the Spacing Guild would basically threaten to disappear into secrecy if any attempt was made to discover or move to their home planet of Tupoli and try to take over their spicing technology. After the end of the synod, the Spacing Guild would begin its monopoly across the Imperium, creating Space Guild Navigators in order to further their means. To create a Guild Navigator, they not only need to consume large amounts of spice, but the person would also be placed in a chamber full of orange spice gas. This would mutate them, elevate their consciousness, give them the eyes of Abad, which are the classical blue within blue eyes that a person has consumed much spice gains. So the Spacing Guild, in combination with the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, the Chom Company, and the Imperial Edict, being the Emperor, would hold a monopoly on not only space travel, but also the money, or the Solaris, which is the known money in the universe. So up until the point in which the events of Dune happen, the first and second book, Dune Messiah, the Spacing Guild is really all powerful. But once Paul Atreides would become the Kwisatz Haderach, take over Dune, and start limiting spice flow and spice production, it would become very crucial that the Spacing Guild try anything they can to free that spice flow. After the events of Dune and moving into Dune Messiah, the Spacing Guild would plot alongside the Bene Gesserit, the Thalaxu, and even Princess Erelon, unknowingly, in order to assassinate Paul Atreides. They would go on to present a gift to Paul in the form of a Gola, or a pre-cloned, engineered version of Duncan Idaho. This plot would ultimately fail, as Duncan, the Gola named Hate, would regain his full Duncan identity and not assassinate and not betray Paul Atreides. This shows what levels and risk the Spacing Guild was willing to go to stop Paul Atreides and to try and get the flow of spice back on track to pre-Paul Atreides days. I know that is a bit of a spoiler, even though we are supposed to get a Dune Part 3, which will probably encompass some of this information. But we don't know for sure if that's going to be in the film. But I do advise to read Dune Messiah, as it is a slower kind of political thriller, a shorter book than Dune, but it does add a lot of extra information, and you do find out what happens to Paul and the rest of the Atreides family after the events of Dune. But if you do like this information and these videos, please like and subscribe. We'll try to get more of these shorter form videos out to the masses here, and I will see you next time.